entrepreneurs are dreamers, and dreamers want to focus on blue sky, right? They don't want to focus on the clouds. But if you're a business owner and you really want to be successful, you have to look at the positives, you have to look at the negatives, you have to find a way to downplay your negatives, right?
Hello, my friend, and welcome to this 3-part series on a call to leadership on Business Monday. I've invited Sam and Travis. We are talking about why startups fail, and this is the second installment. First installment was all about money, and now we're going to talk about mentors, how mentors fit into the equation of successful startups and what we look for in the mentorship relationship. It is really powerful. Let's go ahead and listen in. What would you say is 3 of the top reasons why you would take someone on? Because it's your time. All of our time is extremely valuable, right? Yeah. What are the top 3 reasons when you see someone, they say, would I be able to be mentored by you, say for 12 months, once a month, just have a coffee, a Zoom call? What are 3 things that are non-negotiable?
I would say number 1 is I have to believe the person really wants it. You know what I mean? Because when you ask me to pour into you, I want to make sure, right, that you're able to take what I have to say, because listen, we all, the 3 of us know, like, I'm the guy who's going to be the most direct, right? Like, I'm going to tell you your baby's ugly if your baby's ugly, like that's just how I am. Right. And so I think that there comes a certain level of tough skin, I guess you would say, right? That you can take the direct feedback. Number 2, you have a product that I think has legs, because there's no sense I can mentor you and I can coach you and I can help develop everything about it. But if your product isn't the right product, or I don't believe in your product, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. And number 3, it's got to interest me in some way, right? Because it's got to, unless I'm structuring a deal where I'm mentoring you for, equity in your company, right? Like, mostly I'm going to mentor somebody for free, right? I'm not going to get anything out of it financially. Emotionally, I'm going to get something out of it. So, those 3 things I think are non-negotiable. The lesser amount of money you have, the more coachable you are, right? Because people who make a certain amount of money, whether they've made it the right way or the wrong way, anyway, right? There comes a level of, I don't know if it's arrogance, right? But there comes a level of, I've done it. I don't necessarily need it, right? Somebody who is struggling, right? Who doesn't have a lot of money, they're the ones who are drowning, and they're like, I want the help, please help me. You know what I mean? And so I think, I don't think the financials really bother me one way or another. It's more the personality of the individual, the product, and if it's interesting or not, right? Like, real estate doesn't really interest me in buying and selling houses. So I would struggle with somebody who wanted me to mentor them who is in that field, right? Mm-hmm. But if you get somebody in the medical field, you get somebody in the telecom field, in the technology field, right? Those are really interesting to me. And I also feel like if somebody asks me to mentor them, there's a responsibility that I'm taking on that I need to not necessarily be a subject matter expert in that field, but I have to understand that field in order to give them proper advice, right? Outside of the standard, let's run you through a business 101. Let's look at look at all your paper. Let's, understand your business plan, understand your SWOT analysis. Outside of that, like, I've got to understand how to point you in the right direction. So I have to understand your field a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's real good.
Really good. Yeah. I think the first one for me is dedication. I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. The whatever it takes, attitude, because you got to have that to be successful. Second, you have to be moldable, right? So you have to be able to, like Travis said, you can't know everything. You have to I have to be able to, help you get better and grow, right? If I feel like it's constant pushback and you're just not, you're pushing back on the very things that I know are important for you to get better, that would be a really hindrance for me to coach you. So you have to be moldable and honesty, right? Because I feel like sometimes it's hard to get to the real info because they get in front of you. It's almost like interview, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to meet the person I want to be, not the reality. So it takes me a while to dig through it, right? Just be honest with me about your situation, where you think your shortfalls are, right? And that's key. And if those three things are there, I believe we can do anything. And I agree with Travis. Real estate's, definitely something that I feel like is out of my realm of ability to help people with, but we know people that are really strong in real estate.
Absolutely.
But I feel like outside of that, I feel like I have great experience in multiple market segments. Obviously heavy in tech, but I'm very, very knowledgeable on just business and profitability and people and culture and all the things that really will make any business work.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of basics that just are overlapping. It doesn't really matter what the business is. We talked about a few of them here: people, money, leadership. I think it's all.
But I will tell you, as a mentor, one of the most frustrating things that I encounter is when, and there's one person in particular that pops in my mind for this, that you tell them to do things a certain way and they agree with you, but then they go and they do it their way.
We know them. I know.
And then they call you because they're in trouble, right? And you're like, well, I told you not to do that. Well, I had to, and then it's like, don't waste my time. You know what I mean? Like, that's frustrating as a mentor when if you don't want to hear what I have to say or you don't want to listen to me, cool. Like, it's not going to hurt my feelings, but don't call me and ask me for help.
Right.
And I tell you, hey, here are 3 things to do and 1 thing not to do. And you do the 1 thing not to do because it's the fastest way to cash type scenario, right? Mm-hmm. Or the fastest way or whatever it is. And then call me and say, hey man, I made a mistake.
We told you that.
No kidding. I told you this 6 months ago that was a mistake.
Well, mentor, I feel like it's like a partnership, right? Because you may not be a true partner in the sense of partner of the business or financially benefiting from but you're emotionally investing
100%.
And then if it's like, I go exactly to the opposite of what, we felt like we were on the same page. You and your wife were on the same page. You went and did something different. She's gonna be like, I thought we talked about this.
Right.
I feel like it's there's some correlations there that are pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
No,
it is. I mean, it is. A partnership in business is, and I have partners in business, and that those relationships need to be transparent, but they need to be, worked on the same as your marriage. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You need to have the same level of honesty, right? Of understanding, of patience, communication.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those things, right? Like even the best partnerships will fail, and I think that is one of these on here, right? Like not the right team or disharmony amongst team and investors.
Yep.
Right. That's communication, right? That's just purely communication. The only thing that is on this that is outside of anybody's control is the regulatory legal challenges.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Industry pivots and you have no control over whatever.
Yeah. And this is a big one in the healthcare field, right? Because, you're chugging along, you've built this business around certain product lines, and all of a sudden, right? Like the powers that be at CMS, which is Medicare, right? Which they set the pricing for everybody basically. They decide, you know what? We're going to do a 45% cut on these specific products, and you have 3 months. Mm-hmm. Like you really, you can't really do much. Because you can't argue it, you can't fight it. Outside of the regulatory legal challenges, all of this is basic, right? It's
all basic.
It's planning, it's communication, it's knowing your market, it's hiring the right time, right? it all comes down to, outside of burned out, lacked passion at the very end, that's probably because this person is dealing with all these other things that are going on, and they're just like, screw it. Like, I can go make, $50,000, working at, X, Y, and Z company and not have to deal with any of this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I think, if you're saying that, you're done, right? Because I think, at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, I always knew I could go into the corporate world and got offered high level corporate jobs that I could have made more money and not struggled. And I didn't take those for, what reasons, right? Why does an entrepreneur turn down more money to own his own business, or he or she's own business? Independence, big one. Pride in building something, right? Not being a number on a Excel spreadsheet, right? There's no monetary value to that stuff.
Right.
No monetary value.
Right. No, and something kind of what you brought up earlier about not living off your revenue. I read this, when my wife and I started a company, and this was in 2011, 12, she sent me this meme that she's found online. And this is when memes were just out, but it said, entrepreneurship is living a few years like other people won't, so that you can live the rest of your life like other people can't.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
It's truth.
Oh, I mean that literally, I have yet to find a better definition of entrepreneurship, right? Because solid. that culminates the experience. But I think, right, the three of us are in, what we like to call our second act, right? But I think that if we think back on when was the most exciting times of our business entrepreneurship life, it was at the beginning.
Yep.
It was with the struggle.
It was such a struggle, yet you didn't think about it the whole time. It was I was like, yeah, I'm struggling. Yeah, I can't make payroll, but it's all right.
right.
Should I buy this coffee? I don't know if I can get this.
Right.
But it's like, you're good with it. Yeah. You're like, but I'm going to make this happen because it's that the knife was sharpened then.
Right. Well, and that is the attitude. So for me, as far as mentorship, I'll tell you what I would, and it's similar to you. One is the attitude. That attitude of tenacity, of discipline, that I will not stop until my last breath. It's a non-negotiable. If you don't have that attitude, I can't do it, and because that's how I am. So it has to be. Number two, aptitude. You have to have the cognition and the mental capacity, as you said, Travis. Right? I run on a lot of brain juice, and so you've got to, I don't want to overload you with your own with what I'm going to give you as far as like the depth of understanding of what we're going to accomplish together as your mentor. And number three, and it's easy to spot because we've been there. It's you can run a hustle and be a hustler, but you can't hustle a hustler.
Right.
Right. So if you're, that idea of, my own integrity, because you see people all the time. I get messages from people like, hey, I'm in this situation. And I'm like, no, you're not. That's not your situation. Right. Now, here's what your situation is, right? You say that because you want me to help you, but let's talk about what's really going on, right? Because I was there, right? And don't get me wrong, it's not that you can't be helped, but you're gonna have to come clean and say, okay, you know what? This is really what's going on, but I have the discipline and I have the aptitude to get to where I want to go. Then we can have a conversation. But until then, we can't even have a conversation.
Yeah, if you're not honest with yourself, I can't be honest with you.
Yeah, honesty is key to be able to be better. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. The alcoholic has to be honest with himself that he's an alcoholic to get better.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm willing to share that with you and say, this is where I see that you're missing it. Because if I would have had that coming up, I mean, what we have today is, just to have access to people, just access period today versus 30 years ago. You had access to Men's Health magazine and you had access to Entrepreneur magazine. You had to literally go buy paper.
You had to invest in paper
to learn about business. Now, man, it's wide open. There is no excuse.
There's no excuse.
I wish I had all the, luckily I had you, but you were even learning.
Yeah, I was only 5 years ahead of you. So, I was 5 years ahead of you, but still, it's like, okay, I'm making some pretty big blunders. Even my first 5 years, man, by the time by the time, let's see here, I started in 95, 98, man, I was over $100,000 in debt. So, I wanted to be a millionaire. I was like, okay, now it's 1.1 million, right? Just, and true, like this financial piece, was like, I was financially illiterate. I was business illiterate. I mean, and having that burden and that weight on you, it's significant. I mean, it every morning I would wake up and I would put on like a proverbial backpack, just like with 300 pounds of dumbbells in it. That's how it felt as I got up in the morning. Like, okay, I got to lift this weight today.
Yeah.
But because I had the attitude that one way or another, I will succeed. Now, that doesn't mean that businesses don't go out of business.
Right.
Yeah, I had to shut down stores. I had to make changes. I had to sell a business. I sold my paging and cell phone business, and I didn't. This is how you would never know this today.
Hold on, you need to define paging.
What a pager is, yeah,
because
right.
some people may not know
paging.
what that is.
Like calling Dr.
Right.
Yeah, beepers. Anyway, I sold the business.
Beepers is like 80s rap.
I know.
80s. I sold the business, and I was like, oh wow, I sold my first business. Then I get the bills for all of the the money that I owed people. And it barely paid for everything, right? Because I was so illiterate there. Now, if I would have had a mentor who could have guided me through that, I probably could have got double, triple what I asked for the business.
Probably.
If I would have structured the deal right. And because I was just like, oh, here's a guy who wants to buy my business.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Here's
Reactive.
the keys. Right.
Yeah, reactive, right?
Yeah.
And also because it was cool that I could say I sold a business.
Yeah, for 100%.
Right?
Man, we've grown.
Right. Yeah.
Just that idea, like, okay, great. You want a silver medal or gold medal?
Yeah. So you're in love with these ideas. I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Going back to the planning piece, right? Because you mentioned something earlier that I think it's a great conversation pivot, is many of these pieces are related to, as you said too, reactive, proactive, and business planning. It's about the forward thinking, right? So the planning class, literally students put it all on paper, because a lot of people ask me, do I need a business plan? No, you don't need a business plan, right? But if you don't have one, you're not going to see things that if you actually lay out,
Right.
right? Lay out what my target market is, what my competition looks like, what the market will bear, what the history of this particular, and I love how you put about not being product centric, but being business centric. This was an HP. It reminded me of HP. We were just in Silicon Valley, right? A lot of people don't know that HP, Hewlett Packard, was really the birth. The birth of Silicon Valley was on the shoulders of Hewlett Packard, right? And there's a lot of stuff that happened with the semiconductors and whatnot. But they went in saying, what is it that we can do that will affect the next generation and generations to come in business. I mean, they were so forward thinking. And look at today. Like today, I still will only buy an HP printer. I won't, nothing wrong with brother, but I'll pass it up.
Yeah.
Why? Because I know that thing is a hoss. It's a workhorse.
Yeah.
I mean, it will, all things being equal, sometimes they break, right? But I've got HP printers 10 years old, still cranking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the business plan is a tool, right? And it's a tool to make you think about every aspect and step of growing or building a business, right? It's not, we all know business plans change, and usually, the first time you write them, they don't look the same in 5.0, right? But it just gets you thinking. It gets you, finance, market penetration ability,
Operations. I mean, everything, human resources,
different things, budgeting, just all the real basics.
All the basics, but even as you go on this list, ran out of cash, no market need, got out-competed, flawed business model, which
I feel like you could avoid a lot of these
regulatory challenges. I mean, you can.
But still, if you're doing a proper SWOT analysis, right? Like regulatory, legal challenges are always on there.
So it's always going to be on there.
It's always
a
on
threat.
There. It's a threat. It's always a threat.
We actually, one of these episodes, we probably need to go through that. Pricing cost, not the right team, product. I don't even know.
Mistimed.
Mistimed. Okay, thanks. Poor product, disharmony among the team investors, pivot gone bad. The very last one was burned out, lack of passion.
Yeah.
Right. Which isn't even on a business plan.
Right.
It's you.
It's you because you didn't have a business plan. You know, like to me, a business plan isn't going to make you successful, right? But it's going to point out where your threats and where your issues are going to be. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times, right, entrepreneurs are dreamers, and dreamers want to focus on blue sky, right? They don't want to focus on the clouds. But if you're a business owner and you really want to be successful, you have to look at the positives, you have to look at the negatives, you have to find a way to downplay your negatives, right? Address them, take them head on rather than just thinking you're going to necessarily always be able to outrun it.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm a sales guy, right? So multiple times in my career,
you had to outrun.
I've just been like, okay, like I got to outrun it. You know what I mean? And there are times when that will work. But you're literally like, you're putting the business on your shoulders, and great if it works, you're the hero. But if it doesn't work, you have no other options, right?
Right.
And so I think where a business plan is, it's a reality check, it's a gut check on your dream. But if your dream is good enough, right, you're going to outweigh those negatives. But you have to go into these things eyes wide open.
Yeah, I think the biggest struggle, you were the like, oh, I just remember those days, man. I'd go to you, I'd be like, Nate, this is what I have going on. And the first thing he would say, hey, man, give me a forecast. And I would just, my brain would lock up. I'm like, look, Nate, I don't know if I have enough cash in this 60 days to even run this place. Like, my forecast is, can I make it to next month? Mm-hmm. You know, but you forced me to kind of, start forecasting payroll change, if I change payroll or forecast sales, even though I knew that was so difficult, right? To forecast what I'm going to look 60 days later or 6 months later, right? Because if you go to a bank, they want a 6-month forecast, I think, or a year when you go to get money, I think. I don't know what it is.
Sometimes it's 2.
Yeah, sometimes it's 2. So to me, that was like the biggest difficulty. And then having to, open that spreadsheet up and forecast and it forced you to, dip into your number. And now I live that way. I live in that now. World. Yep. Like my office the other day, 3 monitors up, 3 spreadsheets, and that it had to become my genius zone. It was not. And it still isn't.
I'm so glad you bring that up because that was my question was going to ask, and you answered it, but I want you to go even deeper. The first thing that goes through the dreamer's mind when you say, get yourself a business plan together. Let's see. Then we take the first thing that comes to our mind is probably like,
fear. I'm scared. One, if I've never done one before, right? I don't want to tell you. I don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. Right. And 2 is, I just think back, like when you're starting your first business, like you're so focused on the success of it, and you don't want any negativity coming in your brain.
Yes. It's a roadblock.
And so you literally like, I'm not going to think about that. Like I can't think about it. And on one hand, there's a positive there, right? Like you say, I'm not going to fail. Cool. Right? Like I love that mentality. I have the same mentality. I think we all do. But there also has to be the gut check moment where you're like, okay, I'm not going to fail. But if I'm not going to fail, it's because I'm going to understand going into it where the potholes are and how to avoid them. Or if I can't avoid them, how to make sure I have enough cushion to get around them.
Yes, because part of not failing is saying, okay, there's a possibility this business is unsustainable. And there's maybe some things that are beyond my purview today. If it's not, and I reset, what is my next? So like the plan can even go far beyond its own business, right? And it should. Mm-hmm. But we don't think that far out.
Right.
And like you're right, I like the fear piece. I like the negativity piece because there's a lot of question marks in planning that you're going to have to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And it once you do it and you realize how it, it gives you clarity over your business. Like, they always say, you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. So true. If you don't know your numbers and you're out there, get to know them,
Absolutely.
Because it's very easy to see money coming in and money coming out and think you understand what's happening, right? But then slowly, the money left in the bank becomes smaller and you don't know why. And that's why you got to be on top of your numbers. And
this is where people, I see it all the time. It's
I bet you
the only numbers that matter to people is what's in my bank account today.
Yep.
It's like, it's such a tragedy. Okay. What's in there today? All right. I'm good. No, you're not. You are so far from good.
Yeah.
You are on the brink of disaster every single day. It's Warren Buffett. You reminded me of Warren Buffett. I read an article years ago and he says, one of the ways he partners with people, they have to be able to tell me, and I'm ad-libbing, how many rolls of toilet paper are in inventory and how much each ply of toilet paper costs, something along those lines, right? Yeah. I mean, that's
how much does each square cost?
Yeah. I mean, think about that.
I don't know. Do you? Okay. I'm gonna do it when I leave though.
What does it do? It forces his partners to, now who knows that?
Right.
Very few people. But what it does, it sends it's
a message.
It's a message.
Every penny counts. I mean, he's a billionaire. 85 times over, and he orders his McDonald's breakfast. Depending if he gets a certain breakfast, if he had a good day yesterday, right? He gets a sausage McMuffin. There's like a whole thing, right? And he splurges with an egg. You know what I mean? Like if he had a really good day. He also lives in the same house he bought in like 1955.
Love it.
Another great point. Okay, ran out of money, cash. All right, here's something else I've seen, right? Oh, wow, your business is doing so well. I see you bought 3 Escalades and a Mercedes. Wow, and they're all company cars. Man, you must be rocking. Oh, yeah, we're doing great. No, you're not.
Right.
No, you're not. You want to look good.
Yeah.
You want to look good, but that's not on your business plan, right? Is that anywhere on the plan?
Nope.
No. Would that show up on a plan? Never. Yeah, I wouldn't invest in you.
No, it wouldn't. And I wouldn't either. I agree.
Especially if you're not, I guess I'm going to be the other side of that. If you have a business that's super successful and you have those things, and I can see it on numbers, on paper, and tax returns, no problem.
I'm not talking about that guy.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about
You're
the
talking
guy.
about the doing it for the
$30,000
gram,
millionaire.
Right.
doing it for the gram.
Right.
Yeah, for the 100%. That's the guy. Yeah. So they're using cash flow, because those are the most 2 important words in your business, right? Cash flow, to fund their own personal euphoria.
So here's the thing. If you have to buy it and think about it, don't do it. If you can buy it and you don't have to think about it, that's where I've noticed the difference, right? So you don't think about the payment, or you have to think about the investment in whatever you're buying, right? That's the difference. If you have to say, ooh, I might have to get the off-brand. I might have to get the off-brand coffee creamer this week if I buy this, or forever.
Yeah.
That's where you should probably not buy it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just what I've learned, is that there's a difference between buying something and putting pressure on yourself that's not needed. Right.
And that's where discipline comes in. This is why discipline is my number one, because when you're disciplined enough to say, in the early stages of my business, I'm going to reinvest everything. I mean, textbook. Like I talked about this at Disney, right? Walt Disney, he might have said this because he reinvested because he hated taxes, and he thought if I reinvested everything, I wouldn't have to pay taxes. That was tongue in cheek. Yes, he hated taxes. That was a benefit, but he knew that every dollar I reinvest, it's going to multiply exponentially for me.
It's the best investment for him.
It's the best investment. He sold his car. You see this all the time. These entrepreneurs, they sell everything, right? For what? So that they can have cash flow to reinvest in the business for the right people and the right products. Everything that goes back into the business.
I know someone who did that.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah?
I'm listening right next to him. Remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, that taught me a lot. I remember that. Do you remember that? That was during our run.
Yeah.
We needed a payroll sold a poor black Mercedes.
Sure did.
Didn't even hesitate. It's like, hey, what'd you do?
Souped up too.
What'd you do?
That thing was nice.
Like, where'd the Mercedes go? Man, we're growing. We need a cash flow for payroll.
6 G's.
I was like, whoa. Yeah. And can you imagine like that number now?
Right.
Like it sounds minuscule.
Right.
But back then it was like 600,000.
Right.
Right.
That's like what you talked about, where that's where the character's built.
Indeed, that is where character is built. Thank you, Sam, for finishing us strong on this second part of this 3-part series on why startups fail. Next week, we're going to finish with people and understanding how they affect our trajectory as entrepreneurs. Stick around, listen to the very next one, and I can't wait to be with you again. I'm Dr. Nate Salah, and this is A Call to Leadership.